2. All right, friends, welcome back to another episode of Passion, Purpose, and Profit. So I'm really excited. This is a conversation that I feel like I've had elements of this conversation with you because we catch each other in passing. We have talked a little bit over some lunches and stuff, but never really set aside the time to go deep. So my guest today is Kevin Russell. Kevin is a master intuitive teacher. He's a guide. He's a coach. I'm going to let him talk about all the things he is because I don't even know. Like, he does some real magical, crazy stuff. But Kevin, thanks so much for jumping on, man. I really appreciate you as a human, as an entrepreneur. Excited to dive in and to really get after some good stuff with you today. So thanks for being here.
John, right back at you. Reflection is just that. Absolutely stoked to have this conversation. Like you said, we've been having these drop-ins here and there, just like organic dropping into effortless conversation. So I'm glad we're actually, putting into recording. That's great.
Absolutely, man. Yeah, this needs to get out into the world. So, I tell people all the time, my journey into health, wellness, and entrepreneurship started with a great sort of Greek tragedy of getting fired from a corporate job and a real rock bottom moment of failure and just, oh my God, like, what am I going to do? So I always like to start there. I always like to start with the most challenging part, the most difficult part, because it's all rainbows and unicorns once you're established and building and making money. But if you would be so kind, can you talk to me a little bit about, did you have like an aha moment of like, oh crap, things are not working, that led you into the work that you do now?
A number of them. Where do you want to start? I love that you mentioned rock bottom. It's a place that we get to. I think not many of us give enough credence or credit to, as far as how powerful that place can be. Most of us try to avoid it at all cost. But what I find with the work I'm doing in my own journey, if we don't get to that place of saying, okay, something's got to give, something's got to change, we're kind of in that metaphorical free fall. We haven't hit anything solid we can project or rebound against. So, I mean, in one regard, I think I've been training for what I'm doing now my whole life, but it started with food allergies when I was young. I was on an elimination diet in second grade just because I had such bad food allergies. So I'm the kid in no hamburgers, no hot dogs, no pizza. I'm the kid with the rice bread sandwich, the rice bread falling apart and crumbly, or, the thermos of this soup that I can have that doesn't have any wheat or flour in it. And then, it evolved into teenage stuff. I had some thoughts about not being here anymore. And that was a different version of a rock bottom. It was actually one of the first big expansions I've ever experienced. And then the big one was really with, kind of fast forwarding in life, started dating my wife. We got married, we had our daughter. And it was our daughter who was actually kind of our canary in the coal mine. And she was symptomatic because we were fighting. She was getting anxious and she had anxiety. So she was scratching blemishes and she just couldn't, it didn't feel like she was very comfortable in her own skin. And perfect timing. One of my wife's good friends had injured her back in a hiking accident and was seeing this Western MD who also practiced a form of subconscious inquiry and subconscious intervention. I think it was called Touch for Health. And the injury in the hiking accident wasn't super severe. She didn't lose her ability to walk or anything, but there was pain even after the injury, the little chip off the vertebrae had healed, to the extent where she got surgery for it against her doctor's recommendation. Even after the surgery, still pain. She goes to work with this doctor for about 6 weeks. All of a sudden the pain starts disappearing because what she was able to connect with was her body, what I call the earth suit or the mind-body system. Her system was using this low point, or this point through which the signal could reach her, which in this case was pain, letting her know there was another area in her life that could use some attention. And it was actually her relationship with her husband that was the behind the pain signal. So as soon as she started making shifts in her relationship to that relationship and in relationship to her husband, the pain disappeared. So at this time, we're still fairly externally focused. So we're like, oh, something's wrong with our daughter. We need to get her help. It takes 1 or 2 muscle tests and a 7-minute conversation with this doctor for her to connect with. I get anxious when mom and dad fight. And when mom and dad fight, I do this. I pick and I scratch. And so he turns to my wife and he says, she's fine. You two need to do the work. And we both leaned in. We both said
Whoa.
yes, because we weren't admitting, but we were in different ways unhappy or feeling unheard or unseen or less than safe in the relationship. And to our credit, together we both said yes and leaned in. We weren't ready or willing to give up on ourselves or on each other in the relationship. And that's really what kind of kicked this whole thing off, as far as like, oh no, it's not anything else outside of you that needs to be addressed. It's everything inside of you that needs to be addressed to get you to where you want to go. And that's what really kicked things off.
Yeah, it's so funny because in these conversations that we've been having, two common themes have come up with every entrepreneur that I've talked to.
Mm.
One is the leaning into the uncomfortability, right? The rebound off the rock bottom, the ability to get comfortable being uncomfortable and then being willing to do the work. And the work, right, is really looking internal. It's the metacognition, right? It's the real understanding of what's happening behind closed eyes without distraction, right? And whether it's meditation, there's so many beautiful stories of tools and different things that I encourage people to go through all, because there's not always one way up the mountain, right? But it's been pretty universal, right? That it all starts with it, right? And all the great teachers have been trying to tell us this for all of eternity, but it's like, we just got to get out in the, would you call it, the earth suit?
Earth suit, yeah.
Yeah, we got to look through the earth suit and put on the VR headset and try to figure it out all brain and body. So
cliches are a cliche for a reason, right? It's like, we've heard it time immemorial.
Yeah.
But until we apply it to ourselves, and get that experience, I really think we are experiential learners. We can be told and taught things, but unless we're actually doing it, that's really where the knowledge and the actionable knowledge. Because if we're just learning, we're just keeping books on a shelf that look pretty and collect dust. If we're not applying the knowledge to our own experience, we're leaving chips on the table.
Absolutely. And that's a perfect pivot point too, because the other theme that I've really gotten from people is that as entrepreneurs, we tend to kind of try to go it ourselves with many things, right? And it's like something I've been leaning into in the last year is like, who's smarter than me? Who's already scaled this mountain, right? So I'd love to, because I know you have a lot of different tools at your disposal, but what were the one or two people or mentors and tools that you feel like was the turning point? So obviously you mentioned about muscle testing, and I know that's a big part of what you do, but can you walk us through like what your process was from heartache, struggle to like, what were the mentors, tools that got you to where you really need to go?
Yeah. Again, not to be a one-trick pony, but it really is a lifetime journey. And it was the early on, it was, for me, it was a really aligned knowing of, I always wanted to be a designer. And in my first career, I was in user experience, user interface design. So I designed the human-computer interaction for touchscreens, kiosks, software, applications, website, anything where a human's using a computer to achieve an end goal. And in retrospect, what I recognized that what I was doing is taking either detailed business requirements or complex project specs and translating them into a functional interface that achieved the business goal and solved for the need for the client or the consumer or the audience. After everything that I've experienced and what I'm doing now, I recognize I was training on how to transform our relationship to a more usable interface. And I'm just using that same approach and framework that I did in my previous career for 20 years with the human equation.
No effort is ever wasted.
If we can connect with it, if we can shift because a lot of times we'll tend to be negatively oriented in life and look for the problems instead of the solutions.
Sure, it's our default mechanism.
But if we pivot to exactly what you just said, there's gold everywhere. There's gold in our hills. It's up to us to uncover it with that shift and maybe positive attitude, positive mindset, accepting that our system is probably going to give us something we don't want, and then practicing the ability to how to pivot that into what do we want to reorient. So professionally, that was a big factor. And then personally, to your point, leaning in. So saying yes to almost everything, modalities, practices, approaches. I love the idea of take what you need, leave what you don't. Take the chicken, leave the bone. We're not everything's going to be for us, but unless we experience it for ourselves, going back to that experiential learning, it's hard to know what is or isn't for us. So I was saying yes to everything. Crystal light therapy, which I didn't know was a real thing outside of those crystal light commercials I used to see back when I was a kid.
My mind immediately defaulted to the powder drink. Like
Yeah, that was my thought. It's something different. No. So
I was gonna say, I hope it's something different, because that stuff is so toxic.
It's color coordinated crystals at the 7 primary chakras.
Yeah,
and there's light shining through it. So it's almost like this light fixture you're laying underneath.
Makes sense.
And I think I had like a sleep mask on and headphones with some binaural beats or something. And my mom, in her own way, has been doing her own journeying and exploring. And her experience in this crystal light therapy was the ancestors came in, they were at the foot of the bed. It was angels, it was lights, it was all kinds of beautiful things. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that sounds amazing. So she got me a gift certificate or something. She's like, you got to try it out. It was a peaceful hour's rest.
Yeah, it was a nap.
Exactly.
It was an expensive nap.
I didn't get anything other than that out of it. Or if I did, I wasn't at a place to be able to consciously connect with if there was something beyond that for me.
For sure.
And then I start working with some different tools, and immediately like fascinated. Like, I need to know more. I need to practice more, and just devouring.
Excitement.
Yeah. Following the interest, following what lights you up, your curiosity, or to your point, like, what's the hardest thing I can do right now? I'm going to go do that thing. And so I really was kind of multi-pronged in the sense, one, we were doing some research as far as scientific studies. I was really fascinated at the intersection of quantum physics and our experience. So that was the lens through which I was looking at a lot of this through, trying to reconcile a lot of these big questions. What are we here for? What's life all about? What is God? Who is God? Where is God? And slowly coming to my own deeper knowing about what works for me as an answer to those questions. But the couple focused practices that really got me on the path was learning how to muscle test, getting out of the head. Because we're here to have an integrated human experience. And the body carries so much wisdom and like really power from a multitude of different points. The least of which is not learning how to use our system as a truth detector or a calibrating system. And I'd come across some research that suggests about 85% of the thoughts we have on any given day are going to trend towards negative. Might be a judgment, a comparison, negative self-talk, negative thought about somebody else, or a version of something we've thought before. About 95% of our thoughts are a version of what we thought before. So I come across this research and I was like, well, I'm not listening to that at all. That's worse odds than Vegas. I don't want any part of it. So I just started muscle testing everything, like what shirt I was going to wear, what I was going to have for lunch, what show or movie did we want to watch on the weekend. I didn't have a dog in the fight as far as a conscious care, but I was fascinated what I was strong to or what I was weak to from a testing standpoint. And what I recognized I was doing was training my intuition. I was training that inner knowing, or how to connect with the signal that we've all got on the inside, and not listen to all the noise, which is those habituated or programmatic or conditioned thoughts that most of us are just submerged in all day long. And then I start doing the hard thing by taking complete ownership of all of my stuff in the relationship. Did I still get reactive? Absolutely. Did I still have times where I would shut down and get quiet? Absolutely. But the duration of that dis-ease drastically reduced. So instead of it being a conflict where in the past, we'd be carrying some animosity or some frustration with us for weeks, if not months, that was shortening to days, if not hours, if not carrying it at all, because we recognized that wasn't us, that was our system reacting. And so starting, the way I share this with clients is it's differentiating between the capital J John and the lowercase J John. Capital J John is source having a human experience. He is enlightenment incarnate. He is
you're blessed, baby, all the
present.
time.
Exactly. Finding that middle way, the balance.
Yeah.
Lowercase J John has needs, desires, wants that maybe haven't been fully met or addressed.
Situations, traumas, the whole nine. Yeah.
And that's that reactive self. That's that place where we revert to kind of more what we could say childlike behavior, especially when we get into an intimate relationship.
Mhm.
There's that honeymoon phase. We're all on our best and, best behavior and everything's good and whispering sweet nothings and giving sweet gifts and it's all great. And then we get comfortable. And then that lowercase Kevin, who didn't get his needs met in certain ways, who didn't have a voice in certain ways, he starts banging on the door saying, hey,
Yeah,
what's
you get
in it for
stuck in
me?
traffic, or
Right.
little ladies taking too long at the line in front of you at the grocery store, and
Right.
all that blissness just
Why
kind of.
why is this little thing? Why is something this little? Why did this throw me off?
Yeah,
Why did I get reactive?
yeah.
And then learn some tools and techniques to transform beliefs and our relationship to the past at the subconscious level. So the weight of past experiences wasn't being carried with us as much. And the reason I mentioned early on with the food allergies is that I'll share this a lot as well, as a rising tide lifts all ships. So once we're getting into the deeper subconscious work, which was really the meat for me, that was the chicken. I was like, oh my gosh, give me more. This is amazing. Our relationship improved between ourselves. Our relationship improved within our own space. My health started to improve. Lifelong stuff started to shed and disappear. Everything got easier. And in 2019, I would say I was living a fulfilled life. I was doing my design work as a consultant, as a contractor, traveling when I wanted, surfing when I wanted, really choosing the clients I wanted. And this is about 3 years into my wife and I's self-healing journey. And about a year before, she had asked, hey, you're really intuitive. You're really good with these tools and techniques. You're really good with people. Would you ever want to do this for a job? And in my mind at the time, I was like, maybe in my 60s as a second act, like I could do this design thing for the next 20 years and bliss. Come on, it'd be the best thing ever. And I kept scratching that personal itch. I kept scratching that. No, there's more on this self-development, self-emancipation journey, whatever you want to call it. And then that led up to this massive breakthrough, enlightenment experience in 2019. We've all got extrasensory capabilities. A lot of those got flipped on. And it was like a supernova went off in my mind, to the extent where in this one session I was having, I was lying on a massage table. It was a no touch, no talk session. I had a blackout mask on, and I was squinting my eyes behind the blackout mask because the light inside my head was so bright. And the voice in my head shifted. And what I heard was, oh my gosh, I'm so glad you made it. We're going to have so much fun together. I'm like, all right, did I get like a I Spy tooth implant? There's like, somebody speaking to me, or what's going on? And everything just kind of just fell into place, like puzzle pieces falling into effortless formation. And that was really the start of the pivot, hard pivot out of design into, transformation and guidance work. I developed my own approach to energy healing, which some clients have said is like Reiki on steroids, where it comes looking at it through a different lens. But it's really the marriage of the creativity and the process-driven work that I'd done for the last 20 years that really fueled and informed the way I approached the human equation with these tools. That said, I dropped into a pretty pretty awful spiritual ego for a couple of years right after that experience.
And he's willing to admit it, ladies and gentlemen. Wowzers.
I was the guy yelling at
podcasts
podcasts because the podcast host wasn't saying the right thing.
Yeah.
And my wife was just like, bro, you need some help.
I remember going to a Joe Dispenza event being like, this guy's so full of himself, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, yeah, he's standing on a stage in front of thousands of people. I'm like, obviously he has to have some kind of relationship with his ego. And by the way, you're poor and can't fill a 10-person retreat. He's got 3,000. Maybe shut up and just listen for a little while. You know what I mean? But I appreciate that. Right? That tickled my heart, because it's like, I think it's sometimes we're just not willing to admit we've had that chapter.
Oh my gosh. I don't know if it's an inevitability, but it at least was for me. There's
an Alan Watts quote where he talks about not trying to transcend the ego, which was something that I came up against a lot, because yoga talks a lot about transcendence of the ego, transcends the ego. And then he framed it in a way that just hit, where it was like, I didn't try to transcend it anymore. I just became partners with it. I just became teammates with it. Right. And so there's a healthy, there's a healthy balance I think we need to find where we have to believe, and this is going to be a good jump off for the profit part, because I think a lot of us in the health and wellness space, we find the passion, right? Which you obviously did in your own healing journey. Then it's like the purpose was, okay, like I have now these modalities and ways of being that actually got me from point A to point B that are such a big itch that I can't stay in this hyper successful career, which a lot of people need like catastrophe. It's not like the soul calling allows them out. It's like they need to rock bottom there, right? So you rock bottom early, found the healing, but we're cruising. And then we're like, no, I need to like serve this purpose, listen to that inner light, inner voice, right? But then it's like the last piece is like, then how do you monetize it in a way without being egoic, but also like protecting the fact that a lot of people in the wellness world, because they're such empaths, will give it away. And that equation doesn't work either, because then they burn out, they get resentful, they get angry, they look at like somebody who's really successful in monetizing and they get jealous and judgmental. And I think we've all kind of been there. So I want to let you touch back into, you know, some of what you were finishing up, but I do also want to get to that point of like, where are you able then to balance that with, you know, being confident in yourself, standing on a stage, talking about what you do and being really impassioned, you know, about it without having it kind of drag you into that despair pit of, you know,
Oh my gosh, so much like good stuff there. And so let me see if I can keep it all.
I know that wasn't a question. That was like a 3-minute rant where I just
no,
teed you up with 6 different things, but
I'm right there with
that
you.
really tickled a chord.
So first, to speak to the ego aspect, there are no bad parts of us. It's our relationship to them that determines the quality of experience we have.
Love that.
So if we are in this place where our ego is a little overactive, there's something there for us, because that's not really a good teammate or a good partner. So how do we shift that relationship to improve that partnership? The monetization, and this is something that I did with my design career when I was coming out of college. So I was starting to work professionally and as a designer, and Kelly was, or my wife Kelly was, she was pregnant with our daughter at the time. And I don't think anything's really improved here with the quality of healthcare in the United States, but at the time, pregnancy was considered a pre-existing condition, so we couldn't change insurance. So I had insurance. I was working in restaurants. We met working in restaurants. So I was still waiting tables as I was starting my design career for probably just about 10 years, where I still kept a shift or two as a cutover plan. So as we're going from, lily pad to lily pad in life, we can leap and build the wings on the way down, or we can stretch the leg, get one solid footing where we're going, keep footing on the solid thing, and then cut over when the time's right.
Yeah.
I did a very similar thing in this approach. And to your point about kind of having it be a choice, it was the Thursday before Thanksgiving 2019 when I had this experience. And in that experience, the thought of continuing design work tasted like sawdust in my mouth. It was literally like the universe tapped me and said, "Hey, bud, you're on the field. Get in the game." And I drove straight to Kelly's office and I told her everything that happened. And I told her I can't do design work anymore. And to her amazing credit, she said, "Bet, let's go. Game on." I did still maintain design work for about 3 years after this experience in 2019. And so again, there was that cutover, but that's what worked for me and what felt more comfortable for me, as opposed to just jumping all in.
I think I want to butt in real quick, because I think that's such an important point. And I would love to give a reference, like a juxtaposition, because I'd say I'm the fall off the cliff and find wings along the way, because I was I got fired from my job, and then I burnt out teaching so much yoga that I literally couldn't stomach doing. So I had this mechanism of going hard, extreme, falling off, and then through necessity needed to make stuff happen. But if you're listening to this and you're in a job and it serves you and it pays you and you enjoy elements of that, you can hedge your bet a bit. You don't have to burn the boats, as they say, to go all the way in. Again, there's many ways up the mountain. I'll tell a really quick story where I was coaching someone recently who, a lot of cool synchronies of how I met her, and that's a whole other story, but I'm not gonna go all the way that one. But basically, she was she's the partner of somebody who was my first San Diego friend, who we actually connected in New York, didn't know it at the time, but then reconnected out here. So it was already this kind of cool synchronicity. But she was working in a job and she loved a lot of the team members, the salary, even her boss. Like, she just didn't want to do the job anymore. She just didn't want to punch the, the buttons and all that kind of stuff. But
Yeah.
she was taking yoga teacher training and she was doing sound healing training. And she was lit up by this. And I said, look, let's just run an experiment. Go to your job, do everything you got to do, but talk about this passion stuff that you're doing as much as possible. Just put it at the water cooler, wherever you can put it out there, right?
Yeah.
Like, it took like 2 weeks before people started to get interested, excited. Then they said, let's do a class. The class went so well, she was up for promotion. They gave her promotion to a job that didn't exist, where now she's the wellness director of her entire division. She doesn't have to do her regular job anymore. She gets paid more, gets all of her benefits, gets all of her vacation time back, and she gets to do yoga and sound healing with her employees. It's like, cake and eat it too, like on a whole another level. So I really just wanted to butt in, because there is no correct way to exit one and enter another. Like the lily pad analogy, I think of it as like the foothold in rock climbing. Like, you need to keep one point of contact, so then you can, you know, you don't have to be me and jump off the cliff and try to find the grips on the way. So I think it's important to note that for people. All right. So keep going. So you kind of hedge your bet a little bit, you move into this new way of being, then what?
Over. Yeah. And then, part of the challenge and the opportunity in my own experience was really still using muscle testing and inner inquiry to lean on that inner guidance, that universal connection, whatever we want to call it, to really inform like next steps. And that really, I came to that through the lens of, okay, yeah, I was searching, I was doing the journeying, but you met me halfway. So what am I supposed to do now? You tapped me in. What's my position, coach? Where do you want me?
Yeah. Tell me what to do.
Because I'm like, but put me in front of a group, put me in front of an individual. Oh my God, lights out. You're going to have an amazing experience. You're going to feel some monumental shifts, and you're going to shift into a new reality. Now, how do I communicate that? How do I
get people to show up to it?
How do I get people to show up to it? How do I communicate it?
$1 trillion question.
Exactly. How do I, and the interesting thing is, how do I inject something new into a space that in different ways is fairly saturated or fairly crowded?
Yeah.
And coming to it through the lens of, speaking back to those old cliches, like, don't look at the finger, look at where the finger's pointing. Don't come to me for the healing. You're doing the healing. I'm helping guide you to it. Don't discount your own power. This is how powerful you are. We're so powerful as humans. We can believe our way into health or into illness.
Absolutely.
We can believe our way into heaven or into hell in this moment right here on earth. So how do we harness this wild, amazing power that we've got for good, for the betterment of us, ourselves, our communities, the world? And so I start working with clients, and I, stumble along the way, and there's probably 4 or 5 different, sliding door realities where we're having a different conversation right now. But through that kind of experiential lens, I had to make those mistakes in this new way. Again, not even a mistake. It's just these new ways of figuring out how maybe it's not the way to do it for me. And as far as that profitability, it's still something that I am tinkering with. I'm still, it's the cipher I'm still looking to solve. And infuriatingly, a lot of the guidance I was getting along the way was being shown things or connecting with things that I knew was an inevitability. It's like, I call it future casting, where something hasn't happened, but it's almost like deja vu before you have deja vu, where you have this deep knowing of an experience that you haven't had yet, but it's so visceral, it's nothing less than truth. And in that spiritual ego phase, I was like, all right, I had this knowing, come on, universe, give it to me right now, I'm ready. But I wasn't. I loved a Zen Buddhist quote I put in the book that I wrote after that experience in about 2.5 weeks. And the quote is, before enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. After enlightenment, chop wood, carry water.
Carry water. Yeah.
So I really took that to heart and just took it down to brass tacks, took it down to basics. And from what was channeled in the book, came out with basically a framework that we can all use to be that quantum superhero that we all are. We all have those extrasensory perceptions. Most of us think it's something exotic, but it's actually the most normal thing ever from a human standpoint. So all the
Isn't it
clairvoyance,
an
clairaudience.
unlearned thing, you think?
Oh, the vast majority of the work I do is a reductive exercise.
Yeah.
It's getting the stuff out of the way that's the noise that's distorting the signal.
Even like neurologically, like when we look
Yeah.
at kids up to ages, I think it's 8 years old,
7,
they're in a
8.
constant state of alpha and theta, right?
Yeah.
They're in a constant state of like limbic brain super turned on, intuitive center super turned on. It's almost like the divisiveness of humans. It's the competitiveness. These are all learned behaviors, learned skills, right? It's it's the stripping away and the forgetting of those mechanisms that actually, I think, brings us back to essence, source, whatever you want to call it, but then also purpose and what we're meant to really be doing. Yeah.
And it's not a power struggle, but it's a power differential. And the challenge is that the subconscious, which we can look at, all of the subconscious is all of the autonomic processes of the body outside of the conscious mind and that spark, spirit, soul that we all are, that we have that connection to source. And through that lens, the system is like Terminator in that it has one directive, which is survival at all costs. And if you're surviving, it's doing its job. And everybody in the home office at the subconscious level is getting raises. Everybody's like, oh, yeah, John's stuck and frustrated and miserable. Great. That's exactly where we want him because we know he's going to be safe there.
Oh my goodness.
The challenge is the subconscious from a processing capacity is about 500,000 times more powerful than the conscious mind.
Yeah.
And it's a repository of everything we've ever experienced, whether we remember it or not. To your point, up until age 7, we're like sponges. We're just absorbing everything. And it's important to also include the time frame of gestation from conception to birth in that equation as well, because so much of mom and dad's interaction and dynamic, so much of the energy, whether it's emotional, whether it's verbal or otherwise, we are still absorbing in the womb. And so, we're up against a little bit of a challenge here on this journey. If this journey back towards wholeness is for us, of the deck being stacked towards survival. So how do we reduce that survival stack and shift more into the optimization stack? And that's by and large reductive. It's we remove the trauma triggers. We heal the emotional bruises. We transform our physiology at the belief level to start getting better results than we have in the past. And so for me, part of my challenge, I think, has been describing what I do to people. I've worked with marketers that are wildly successful, with story writers and entrepreneurs, and they even say, like, I don't know how to describe what you do.
It's so great. I've had the exact same thing. Yeah, I've had such struggle trying to like client avatar or like,
oh my gosh, yeah.
What's
your demographic? What's your psychographic?
Yeah, and I think I've gotten more realistic about it in the recent past because of my own journey into removing the blockages that I am not enough, right? Which I think is so pertinent in so many people. If I can tell you the exercises that we do on retreats, there's always a process that I do where I get people really clear about their self-limiting beliefs. It doesn't matter the age, the ethnicity, the background, the standalone winner for biggest self-limiting belief that people carry is I'm not good enough, right? So for me, this was the conquering of that really allowed me to get clear about who I serve, because then other people are going to fall away and that I can't save everybody, right? So that felt like I had to,
nor are we intended to.
No, not at all.
Which is the other part of shift.
I mean, I think it's one of the biggest curses of like social media and our access to other people's lives is that we are barely in the operating system of us capable of compartmentalizing just the small tribe or community people that we live in reality with, right? And their issues and problems. Like, even if you live in a house with one wife, one daughter, one dog, it's like, that's a lot to manage, right? And now it's like
reduce that down to just one pet. I mean, any co-creation with any being.
I can tell you, I've had a dog in the emergency room 3 times in the last 12 months. It's cost me over $20,000. And I also had to put another dog down. Just managing those 2 dogs has been enough for my nervous system, right? So now take that and extrapolate that to, all the issues that we're having in our country, in our world, et cetera. And it's just, there's no bandwidth left, right? To be self-aware about what's actually ailing and challenging and changing you. So I think it's so fundamentally important. And it was for me to kind of get really realistic about who I could serve, how I could serve. And then the last part, which is what I want to touch with you on, you know, in the latter portion of this discussion, is like, how do I actually charge them what is going to feel like a reciprocating amount?
Mhm.
Where I've had people sign up for retreats, and I can tell you this, like, full disclosure, like, I've had people sign up for the less expensive spots on my retreats, and immediately after, I just said to myself, that's not enough.
Mm.
Like, I'm glad they signed up, but I
Yeah.
also like feel dissatisfied with
Yeah.
actually getting money from someone who just feels good about they made a decision to buy something for me. But that's
Yeah.
not their fault. That's my fault, right? Like, that's an inability of me, right, to price
Sure.
myself accordingly. Where
Yeah.
even now, like, I'm a week away from a retreat where all the most expensive spots were the ones that sold first, because I've shifted the narrative in terms of my own belief system and what
Yeah.
I'm able to really command in terms of my value, right? So
Yeah.
I just think it's like such a, like, if you are an entrepreneur, especially if you're a wellness entrepreneur, right, that internal equation of value and your belief system in yourself, like you said, it can make you sick, it can make you healthy, it can really turn on and turn off so many different, upregulate proteins, downregulate, like, it does all these fantastic. But if you're not spending time to really dig in on that for yourself,
Yeah.
you know, what does that look like? So I'm curious, because the work that you do is so intimate and it can be so life-changing, and I'm sure
Yeah.
you've saved and changed so many lives. But it's like, how have you been able to compartmentalize that then with, you have a wife, a kid, a house, all the things that you need to pay for, and we live in the three-dimensional world of stuff and things.
Yeah.
How have you found the balance, and what are kind of the ways that you've been able to navigate that space?
Yeah, I think one of them was going back to what he touched on a little bit more for my own journey, that cutover plan of as things are getting up and running and stabilizing for this new endeavor, making sure that we're doing what we need to do to keep the lights on, keep things up and running. An interesting thing that's happened to me for the first time in my life is Kelly is out earning and outperforming me right now from those kind of income metrics.
Mm.
And so if it wasn't for that, I would 100% still be doing design work right now.
Hmm.
Because I haven't gotten to that place of consistent stabilization in order to be that thing. So through that lens, I'm still figuring it out myself. Have I found wins? Absolutely. Have I sold either packages or programs at premium? Absolutely. Is that consistent and reliable? That's where I'm still focusing and working and tweaking. A couple of things that have helped me with defining that for myself, and I did want to touch real quick. You mentioned that, you know, unworthy or, you know, kind of quality. Kelly and I found that we noticed people fall into two camps: either unworthy and worthless, or unloved or unlovable.
I bet I got a little bit of both of those.
I mean, you know, we're human, right?
Yeah, I'm like, I can sign up for all four of those at some point. Yeah, for sure.
And most of us will have like a dominant one. But to your point, like, most of us have a little bit of all of it. Because if you consider where we come from, for argument's sake, to be a place of unconditional love and acceptance, what might a really exciting, exotic human vacation be? Oh, let's have a jacked up experience of contrast that gives us the gnarly stuff. Because then we have an opportunity to find the beauty, to find the love again. So a couple of things that helped me on the professional side of things. One, I heard a good just kind of benchmark is price your program or your offer at 10% of what your target audience earns in a year. So if you have a $10,000 program, your target audience needs to be around 100,000 plus a year.
Interesting.
And so just to kind of, again, in the three-dimensional space and the practical kind of pragmatic numbers space, that was one thing that helped me to orient in time, in space and time. Another thing that I've embraced that's for me a cutover plan of going from that altruistic, you know, I want to give it away. And I do think it's a good exercise to look at it through the lens of, if money wasn't an option, what would you be doing with your life? And so if there was some, you know, benefactor or something like that, or you know, sponsor who was just saying, hey, you just keep doing work, here's your stipend. Yeah. I would be doing exactly what I'm doing, because this is the most amazing thing ever. Exclusive of that, I really employed, for my own balance, flex pricing. Because I want to meet the client where they're at. I don't want price to be a barrier to the work if somebody's really ready for it. And so through that lens, we reserve some scholarship funds in case there is a need or a qualified client that can really utilize and benefit from that. And then I also look at flex pricing with the programs I'm offering through the lens of, I want to meet people where they're at, while also taking care of my needs as far as an energy exchange goes.
Yeah.
And so if you start looking at it, just it's like, oh, I don't want to charge there, and we assign meaning to why we don't want to do that. It's just exchanging energy, time, effort, guidance, monetary compensation. It's nothing more than energy in a different form. So it's not the thing, it's our relationship to the thing that determines the quality of experience we have.
Yeah,
so
I agree.
Those of us that are practitioners, nothing anybody else is doing has anything to do with us. So what's our relationship like to income, to money, to abundance, to finance? And that's the place to look. The other thing, to your point, that I've continued to do is I've continued to work and cultivate myself. Just because I had this experience doesn't mean I get off the hook. I'm still constantly like tweaking and shifting and challenging myself and my assumptions. And any place I get to where I'm like, ooh, I'm here. There's, there is no here. It's a continual unfolding of the moment. So yeah, I'm still chipping away at it. I think a couple of things that I've learned that might really help those, no matter where they are in their journey, is decide on a couple things and stay consistent with those things. First couple of years, first 3 or 4 years, I was jumping around. We did online courses, we did online funnels, we did quiz challenges, we did like all of the things that all the people in the space were telling you should do to be successful. All came with varying degrees of success or not quite success. And what I recognized in retrospect I've been doing is practicing. I've been practicing figuring it out. What works for me, what doesn't? What is a framework that is sustainable or excites me that I want to continue to offer? What is something that I really just did it because that's where the way the wind was blowing and I got caught up in the current at that time, in the ecosystem of life. And what that's gotten me to do is help to distill down actually what are the core values, what are the core benefits that I offer and that a client might get from working with me, and defining those and then just playing those notes.
Yes.
Staying really consistent.
Yeah.
And what I've noticed is when I made that shift, that's when I started to get greater traction. That's when I started to get greater feedback, greater, not even greater exposure, but just greater interaction, really, is a great way to put it.
I love
and then
that.
Building from there.
Yeah. I think the excitement component and sticking to one or at most two, maybe three things at most, that really are executable, because I've had the same analysis paralysis of trying to do in-person events, trying to do it online, trying to have a book club, trying to have a podcast, trying to have just so many lanes, and then eventually just throwing my hands up because I didn't really have a clear path to any of them. And then they all had 10% of my joy. They didn't have anywhere close to 100% of my joy.
Yeah.
So I think that that's really important. I also use the analogy, like or hate Joe Rogan, that dude just decided that he had interest in things and wanted to talk to people about it and didn't want it to be stifled by an hour and a half or commercials or anything. And he just started talking to people for hours, recording it, putting it out there in the world. And now he has the biggest podcast in the entire world. Right?
Chop wood, carry water.
100%.
He did the damn thing over and over and over.
100,000%. And I want to also acknowledge too and appreciate, you're saying hey, I'm in a season right now where, Kelly is holding it down for me and helping me and supporting me. And, that's allowing me the capability. Cause we all stand on the shoulders of giants of others, we all need help. We all need support. And that's another theme with a lot of these podcasts that I've been hearing is I struggle with it. I struggle to feel not good enough again. So it's I don't feel okay to ask for help. I don't feel worthy to ask for help. And, I've been telling this story recently, I wanted marketing help because I've I've struggled with it. I haven't figured out. I know what I know, and I know I'm really good at it, but I don't know how to put it out in the world or get people to pay attention to it. It's just not my superpower. And so I was having a meeting with a friend. We were co-working and we were talking about this. And, I said, I want somebody to just believe in me and show me that they can do something before I start paying them for it.
Yeah.
She's like, well, like my sister owns a marketing agency and it's never going to happen. There's no problem. Literally the next day I got a cold email from a guy that was like, hey, like I work with people like you who do what you do. I help them build, I help them scale, and I don't take anything unless we both make money. And I was just like, okay.
Again, the difference between a desire and a limitation.
Yeah. Yeah. And a worthiness, just a worthiness to like have somebody step to the plate and say, yes, like I'm willing to help you with this, or like I am extending an olive branch and, there's no hidden agenda here. I believe in you. I believe in what you're doing. And, I want to help you scale it. I would say too, like, especially like with what you're doing in terms of like the flexibility of like there's no effort, like energy is not created or destroyed. No effort is ever wasted. Even this podcast, right? Like I used to be a journalist. I used to interview people. I love conversations. I love storytelling. And there was a time when I was deep into yoga and meditation where I was like, oh, that 4 years of college is such a waste. It's so stupid, right? And it's like, now the ability to articulate and write coherently like actually matters and it means something. And I've edited a lot of video and I've been able to do things because I had this skill set of energy that I put into other things, right? So the same way that you've been able to kind of like, I love the lily pad analogy, kind of step from one thing to another thing, but also just recognize like it's all a part of the journey. And the good that you're putting out there for people, it will always reciprocate. It will always come back to you. I think the last thing I would love to say, and I'm wondering kind of how you feel about this too, is like, I think for me, I always kind of built an idea that like money equated certain things, a nice place to live, a car, whatever. But like, I wasn't even clear if I wanted those things. Like it was all a measuring stick based on other people's priorities or other people. And now I'm like in a process of like trying to downsize from an SUV. I'm trying to keep more things more simple because like I really revere the money that I have, but I'm really more connected to the why of I want it. Right. So I'm just curious if like that's work that you've done, or is that something you're still working on, of like when you are asking for money in these situations and you are, trading your time for service, like the clarity around what is it actually serving or going towards, I'm wondering if you could speak to that.
And that, I mean, that's been an entirely evolutionary journey that I've been on myself last couple of years. And, my go-to was always unworthy or worthlessness. That was my camp, and Kelly's was, unloved, unlovable, if we boil it down, which, there's some perfect symmetry there in a, messed up, very human experience sort of way. And so in my own relationship with worthiness, with abundance, with all of those, catchy keywords that we've all heard in this space, the biggest factor for me was more easefulness around my own offer, who I am, what I bring to the table, more effortless ownership of that, and then stop selling. There's an offer. This is what, if you want to step in, if you want to attend the academy, the training, life training, I call it the Quantum Consciousness Training Academy. There's a tuition. If you're ready for that education, you're going to be blown away by the value that you're getting for what the tuition is. Could I charge more? Absolutely. Will I eventually? Maybe. But for me, it was my own relationship to that really shifted the conversation that I'm having with other people, that is starting to make those conversions more effortless. And
I'm curious if you were to up the ante, because I feel like there's a little piece of you there, like that knows that maybe or you feel like it could be more valuable.
Oh yeah. Oh,
and
no,
it just in real time, like it's interesting because I started charging more for what I've been doing.
Yeah.
And a different type of person has stepped forward. And there's 100%. A quote, like when you pay attention, you know what I mean too. Yeah. And you kind of find that. So not that this is a coaching session, this is a podcast, but it's like, I think it's a moment of clarity of like, sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
But that's the exact journey that I've been on.
Yeah.
And come at it through a couple different lenses. One is, trim this from a business coaching standpoint, trim the bottom 10% that's taking up the 80% of your time.
Yeah.
So there's looking at it through that lens, and through that lens, it's like, what's the quality of
buying back your time is how I think about it. Yeah.
What quality of client am I currently experiencing? What quality of client do I want to experience? Not from a financial standpoint, but from a interpersonal standpoint, as far as like awareness, readiness, and openness to doing whatever's there as far as the work goes. So all of those shifts have really added up to this more easefulness around the conversation. And I feel like that's been the shift for me. It was my shift in the relationship to my worth, my value, my perception of myself that started making those conversations more effortless. And even though there isn't, let's say on paper, the monetary financial success, my approach is, this is the shit. If you want it, let's freaking go. If you don't want it, it doesn't have anything to do with me or my value or what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And it has nothing to do with anybody else. Everything is, nothing anybody else does has anything to do with us. It's just us in our own little echo chamber that matters. But really shifting that, and then having the reflection, having reflection helps.
Yeah.
And I've had a client say, I would have paid $100,000 for this. And I was like, damn it, I could have gotten you to pay $100,000 for this? No.
I've had people tell me I would have paid twice for this retreat. I'm like,
but to me, I just use that as a signpost of I'm going in the right direction.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going in the right direction.
Give the value. Make sure the value is there. I've always been an over deliver, under promise kind of person. Now I'm finding a better homeostasis with it again because my own internal workings. Yeah. The other thing I've been thinking a lot about too is like, I've been running retreats for a long time, and it's a crazy thing. Like, it's a crazy thing to think that 12, 15, 20 people, right, are going to have to align their schedules, align their lives, fly to Southern California or Bali or Costa Rica or whatever. There's a lot of friggin' stars that have to align, right? Yeah. And then last year I started leaning into coaching because I like you, found that I really had the passion. What was my favorite part of the retreat was actually coaching, was teaching people.
Yeah.
Right. And I was like, well, now if I strip back and remove the barriers to entry of logistics, flights, whatever, I can just distill down my favorite part, do it in like a Zoom call or whatever, and actually get lit up. And I do the litmus test of like, would I do this if I wasn't getting paid? And I have clients right now where we go overtime almost every single session because I'm absolutely freaking loving talking to them. Yeah. Sometimes they want to hang up on me. I'm like, no, wait, we got to make sure like you're ready to go for the week. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like, it's super fun. And the last little caveat too was like, in trying to find 20 people for a retreat, you probably have to touch point a few thousand people, right? There's the whole like 100 to 10 to 1, right? It's like 100 touches to 10 calls to 1 sale.
The conversion metric,
and I was like, well, if I started charging what I thought like my coaching and my education was really worth, I don't need to find 20 people. And I used to run a retreat almost every single month. I don't have to find 20 people a month. I have to find like 1 or 2 amazing, perfect people every single month. And then I could like screw around and do free workshops and free sessions and all that kind of stuff and just have fun and film podcasts and
do
still other stuff.
And it's not that the other stuff isn't also informing or feeding that engine that you're creating.
It's all touch points. It's all good energy that's going out into the world, right? It's all, it's all good, as they say, right? It's all like you're practicing your craft, you're articulating it, it's tagging, it's reposting, it's happening in all these different, that was again, the impetus for the podcast. So it's like, if I could have 3 or 4 of these good conversations a week and then turn them into a bunch of clips and, tag and mix communities and all that stuff, I don't care, like, initially, if I make like any kind of money on it, right? It's like, it's just putting more of myself out there and being willing to be seen and judged and all that stuff, which has always been a kind of struggle. So, I mean, look, I love this conversation so much. I try to keep them around an hour-ish, but I would love to, in closing, if there's one big piece of advice, one major milestone moment or thing that's on your caulkboard, or what's something that if somebody's listening to this and maybe they're not even at the passion stage, let alone the profit stage, but they're kind of struggling, they're kind of trying to figure out how to maybe move in a direction that, somebody like yourself has moved. What is like one big thing, one big takeaway that you think you can give to somebody?
I mean, it's a little bit, it's like to a hammer, everything looks like a nail type of thing. No matter where you are on the journey, work on yourself. Don't think that just because you had one of your extrasensory perceptions flip on, or you've had it flipped on since you were little, means that you're there. It's there's a Japanese word or theme. It's called us. It's spelled OSU, and it means it's basically like the finding the presence in the continual unfolding of now. So persevering while doing challenging things. And selfishly, my whole journey started with feeling better. I just want to feel better physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. And if that is at least a portion of what's on your plate, you are going to benefit from it exponentially. So never stop working on yourself. Never stop questioning your thoughts. Never stop challenging your beliefs, because most of those aren't real. Most of those were handed to us through programming, conditioning, epigenetics, family lineage, ancestral, cultural, societal avenues and channels. So the more that we can get to that clarity for ourselves, the more easeful it is to help guide others to their own clarity for themselves. So through that lens, yeah, just you are the most important part of the equation. And I know for a lot of us in that space, that might sound selfish because we're in this selfless capacity. But I really look at my own experience, and I work with clients all the time, and this comes up as an analogy. If we aren't putting our oxygen mask on first, we are not going to be able to be of assistance to anybody else. So whether that's your main focus while you're running your 9 to 5, that's fueling your 5 to 9, whether it's just you're doing the 9 to 5 and you're working on yourself, make sure that that's part of the equation, and make sure that's always part of the equation. A master stays a master by practicing their forms, even after they've gotten to a place of perceived mastery or whatever else.
Chop wood, carry water.
Chop wood, carry water, beginner's mindset, do the hard thing, lean into the thing you've been avoiding that your system's trying to keep you safe from. And that's where we find the gold. That's where you find those nuggets.
I love that so much. Yeah. I have to constantly remind myself, it's like I teach a lot of breath work, and sometimes I'll stop doing breath work for a while and then I come back and it's magic. And I'm like, oh, this is so dumb. Like, how are you?
Why wasn't I doing this for the last 3 weeks?
Holy crap, dude. It's like just absolutely crazy. Well, yeah. Kevin, I appreciate this talk. Like I said, I could go forever on this. I feel like quantum mechanics, there's so many rabbit holes. We'll definitely do another one at some point, because I want updates and live feedback on, how things transpire over the next few months. I know you mentioned your book. I definitely want to give you a chance to plug that. So what is the name of the book and where can people find it?
Yeah, the name of the book is Radical Enlightenment, My Guy on the Ninth Floor. And it's really a handbook for synthesizing spirituality, quantum physics, and consciousness. So how do we do the things that we're here to do with more ease, with more effortlessness, and with a step-by-step approach to come back to that wholeness that's always been waiting for us on the inside.
I love that. And where do people find it?
It's on Amazon. If you go to kevinrussell.guide, you can also get it's linked there. And then also through kevinrussell.guide, you'll get access to our training academy, where we offer a 2-day free mastermind where we pretty much give all the tools away and we introduce you to the subconscious work that we do. And then you can also get access to our website, radicalenlightenment.com, which is a little bit more of the self-guided, self-directed tools. We've got a 21-day nervous system reset challenge, which I call it energy hygiene. If we aren't cleaning up our energy, just like we do our teeth and our hair and our clothes and our dishes, we're leaving a lot of chips on the table. Once again, not to belabor that analogy. But yeah, the kevinrussell.guide is a good hub to launch from for all the offerings and all the things.
Beautiful. And if you guys are listening to this on Spotify, YouTube, that's the 2 places that all this stuff will be linked. But obviously, you can just go find Kevin through those 2 channels. Kevin, man, I appreciate this so much. I know you're a busy guy. I appreciate you taking some time to jump on. And yeah, I know this is a really good stepping point or lily pad, as you said, for a lot of people, I think, who are on this journey, on this path. And yeah, just really love and appreciate you a lot. So thank you.
Right back at you, brother. Just one mirror looking in another mirror. Appreciate the heck out of you conversations. Anytime we get together, it's always a treat.
Heck yeah. Thanks, Sarah. Thanks everybody for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.